Now sometimes things aren't so nice. I'll just go ahead and tell you right now, this is not factorable. Okay, there are no there's nothing that I can do to factor this into the product of two binomials. So I can complete the square with it. Well, how do I do that? Well, one problem with completing the square is the coefficient of the x squared term must be 1. And what is it now? Well, the coefficient is -3. So I have to manipulate it algebraically to make that coefficient 1. And how I do that is I divide every single term by that coefficient. And I'm going to put 0 over -3 because you really are dividing everything by -3, and people don't bother to do that because we know it's 0, but I'm doing it, so tough darts. So there we have kapow, and I have x squared. 12 over -3 is -4x minus 5/3 equals 0. And now I'm going to complete the square. Again, remember, the rules are move the constant, which is the c term, over to the right side of the equation. So I added 5/3 to both sides. Okay. I'm sorry this is -4 again. I wish it had been different because we're going to end up with a +4 again. But it's a little different because I'm taking half of -4 is -2. And -2 squared is indeed 4. So if I add 4 to this side, I must add 4 to this side. And things are looking great because this will always factor into a perfect square trinomial. This one happens to be x minus 2 times x minus 2. And then I'm going to combine these cowboys. Now you don't have to write this out every time if you immediately recognize that it's the square of a binomial, that this is a perfect square trinomial, and I can write it like this, is equal to 17/3 if I take the square root of both sides, then plus or minus. Then we have x minus 2 equals plus or minus root 17 over 3. And I get x equals 2 plus or minus square root 17/3. And I don't pull out my calculator because it says solve exactly. This is the exact answer because if I took the square root of 17/3, I would get some nasty decimal and have to first add 2 to it and then take 2 and subtract it. It would just be nasty. So that's completing the square. Okay, so half coefficient, middle term, square it, add to both sides, so we have that, factor, and then from there it's easy. You're in business. And I should have put up here, it's very important that coefficient first term, or I should say x squared term, must be 1. And it wasn't here in this example, so we just took care of that by dividing by whatever that coefficient was. In this case, it was -3. Now, again, if I graphed this right here, if I graph this on my graphing calculator and solved or analyzed the graph and found the zeros, I would get 2 plus the square root of 17 over 3. It would have to be its decimal equivalent, and I would also get 2 minus the square root of 17 over 3. with its decimal equivalent. It wouldn't give it to me like this. It would give me the decimal.